Good afternoon, Councillor Journeau, Councillor Kelleher-MP. Long time no see.
No, not time.
It's been ages.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, sorry guys.
But all right, I think we are all here, so I will call this organizational meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order for 2020 to prepare ourselves for the 2021 year. You have today's proposed agenda. Are there any additions required to be made to the agenda? If not, may I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor Kelleher-MP, thank you. All in favor? Councillor Demota, I have lost you. There you are. Thank you. All right, substantive business. First order of business is to set the date, time, and place for regular meetings. Suggestions from anyone or a motion that any particular time or date be changed for regular meetings? Councillor McGrath.
I move that council set the dates, times, and locations for regular council meetings, sorry, for the 2021 year as presented in our agenda package via the calendar.
Thank you. Any comments from anybody? Councillor Butler? Councillor Butler, you'll have to unmute.
I'm sorry, thank you. I'll move to amend the motion that we hold regular meetings at 9:30 in the morning as well as committee of whole meetings. If that's in order.
That is a substantial amendment, but I'm prepared to allow Councillor McGrath to view that as a friendly amendment if you wish. Otherwise, we'll deal with it as an amendment.
Could I speak to that question?
Absolutely.
Sure, and actually it isn't really my intent or even hope that it be a friendly amendment. I think we should vote on it separately because I don't think council is in favor. I'm at peace with that, but I would like the question addressed. So that's why I actually waited to put it forward as an amendment rather than make a separate motion. If you agree with that as process.
All right, so the amendment then is that council adopt date, time, and place for regular meetings as presented in the calendar, with the exception that regular meetings be changed to 9:30 a.m. on the relevant dates at the same place. Any further discussion? Councillor Butler, do you want to speak to your
Sure,
motion?
I'll speak to the amendment. As I've said before, it's not something I feel really strongly about, but I do feel it's more productive, to be honest. I think we do better with morning meetings, and I find that when we get really late in the day, I find we just become unproductive, and I don't think it's really either more or less fair or reasonable for administration, or I wouldn't suggest it. I think they indicated it probably doesn't really matter one way or the other. We seem to either extend through people's lunch hours or extend through into their after work hours. So, but if councillors don't agree and we defeat the amendment, then I don't feel very strongly about it.
Thank you. Any other debate on the amended motion? I personally, I am inclined to vote in favor of the amendment. I appreciate that there is the concern that work expands to fill the time available. So the earlier we start, the more time we'll take. But I do recognize the comments that Councillor Butler has made, and I'd be quite prepared to try a change. I know we debated this a year ago, and it did not find favor, but still I find myself prepared to vote for the amendment. But I see there are other hands up now. So Councillor Wilson first, and then Councillor Journeau.
I'm not in favor. I think it gives the opportunity for public to chime in or to be part of meetings. I know, of course, it's 9:30 is our committee of the whole and 1:30 is regular, but it at least gives people different times to partake in public meetings. You know, so 9:30 doesn't work like always for people, then 1:30 is an option, and vice versa. But then I do support the comment that Mayor Ireland made, was that if the time is allotted, it will be filled, and we're very guilty of that. And I think it kind of keeps us on task if we stagger the meetings as we have prior.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Journeau.
Thank you. My thoughts were with the public, but now that we have Zoom, I think that it's convenient for them to participate. As we know, we have more. We hardly ever had any in person. We have more, and I think for the general people, 9:30 would be fine, be done, and could go about the rest of their day. So I think I will support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Journeau. Councillor Demota.
Well, I'd be hypocritical in not voting in favor of the amendment because I was accusing council of not wanting to meet enough as it is. So if we needed to extend our day, and I do, as much as I'm reluctant to change, I really want to, maybe try something out, because I think there's an opportunity there. And I like Councillor Butler. I do feel that at the end of the day, we do get a little bit tired, and I feel that we're more productive. But one thing that troubles me is that Tuesday seems to be a regular powder day in the winter time, and had a lot of opportunities with those afternoon meetings. But that's just selfish. So I'm good for going with what the rest of council wants to do.
Thank you, Councillor Demota. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Councillor Butler, for bringing this forward as an amendment to the motion I made, because prior to your amendment, I wouldn't necessarily have thought that way, or it to be a productive use of time. I would have just kind of continued on with our regular schedule that we've been having. But I do see the rationale, and I would support this. I think that even if it was just for the last year of our term, specifically to allocate a little bit more time to get things done without running into the dinner hour, I fully support this amendment, and I think it's a good idea that I wouldn't have come to on my own. So thank you.
Councillor Kelleher-Empey.
I also like the idea, and then we have to be mindful that also on Tuesday sometimes we have intergovernmental, and then we'd have to schedule them in the afternoons. But I think that if we're going to do this, we have to be mindful of the staff, and we should make sure that then we break at 12:30 to 1 for lunch if the meeting is going over. I don't think it's fair to have a 9:30 meeting and suddenly it's 4 o'clock. And I'm guilty of that when I've been chairing. So I'm all for going for full day meetings, but I think we do need to have a scheduled break in there should we go over past 1 o'clock.
Thank you, Councillor Kelleher-Empey. I see no other hands. Just a question of formality for administration. The motion now reads with a reference to the calendar, and the calendar references meetings at the Jasper Library and Cultural Center. Do we need the motion to indicate that that is the place, subject to meetings being held by Zoom in compliance with other council direction? Just as a formality, do we need to mention that for the organizational meeting in the motion?
Christine, are you available there with this one? I don't see an issue with that or needing special instruction. We understand that it's in response to a current outbreak. So I think that can be amended internally easily enough.
All right, if there's not a concern, we can address it later if something comes up. So I will call the question then on the motion to amend from 1:30 p.m. to 9:30 a.m. for regular meetings on the scheduled dates. So on the amendment, all in favor? Those opposed? There is one opposed. That motion or that amendment is carried. And so then we return to the motion as amended, which is to set the date, time, and place as indicated on the calendar with the change in time for regular meetings. Any further debate required on that? In that case, I will call the question. All in favor? Opposed? One opposed, that is carried. We can move to agenda item 4.2 to set the date, time, and place for committee of the whole meetings. Is there a motion coming forward for that? Councillor Demota?
I would like to make the motion to have the meetings, the committee of the whole meetings as presented in the agenda package on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month, beginning at 9:30 a.m. at the Library Cultural Center or otherwise via virtual. However, that got amended the last time, if that could get worded that way.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Demota. Any debate on the motion? You're ready then? I'll call the question. All in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Agenda item 5, deputy and alternate deputy mayor schedule. So to begin, the alternate deputy mayor will be the outgoing deputy mayor, regardless, I think. But otherwise, might I hear a motion with respect to selecting and the timing of the deputy mayor schedule? Councillor Butler?
I move that council approve a deputy mayor and alternate deputy mayor schedule rotating on 2 months terms commencing November 1st, 2020 as presented in the agenda package.
Thank you, Councillor Butler. That would set the schedule, but not who fills it, correct?
I referenced the schedule in the agenda package, which does set who fills it.
I think there's a blank one too, no?
Oh,
Well, the one that is filled is already concluded. That concludes later this month.
oh, I see.
And the next one is blank. So that's
Oh,
fine.
that-
We could do it as separate questions, and that might be appropriate. We could configure the postings based on what's in the agenda from November 2020 till October 2021, and then discuss separately the rotation.
Whatever you prefer. I thought I was moving the rotation for discussion, but if you prefer it first way, then that's fine.
Councillor Demota?
Well, I was just going to amend because I think that I thought that was Councillor Butler's intention, so I was going to amend with the same rotation as the
Okay.
previous year. So if
All right.
that moves things along a little easier, and not having to break up the debate.
If that's what was intended, then I will leave it at that. I know that I saw at least one email suggesting a change in rotation, and I see I've got one hand up. So I'll start there. Councillor Wilson?
Yeah, and I apologize that they didn't respond sooner. But my preference would be to a change in rotation. May through June is very difficult for me to be chairing meetings. It just adds a little bit more to my plate. I'm willing to take it, but if anybody's willing to swap, I'd be open to that as well. Yeah, and just to add to that, usually Councillor Keller-Empey does it all for me anyway. But
What
Councillor-
months work best for you, Scott? Sorry.
earlier this in the new year would be great, but or later. It's just that we're starting a pretty large project starting April 15th. So in any case, I can handle it. Although I would swap out if anybody's interested too.
Thank you. I saw Councillor Janot first and then Councillor McGrath.
I was going to ask Councillor Wilson if does July and August work? Because I'm on July and August and I prefer May, June. No.
Yeah, honestly, no, not really. But
Okay.
yeah.
Could be
That's
a
fine.
three-way trade here.
Councillor McGrath.
I'm happy to help Scott if it works better in his life, as I'm the January, February deputy currently. But I wouldn't be a good alternate deputy in July and August. So I'm willing to switch if I could maybe have my alternate deputy role at a different time, or I'm not sure how that would work, but
Well, we also have an acting alternate too, right?
yeah, so I'm happy to work with Scott as a team member to work it out, to work with his life, but I'm not positive how that works best for the whole group.
Councillor Keller-Empey.
If Councillor McGrath switched with Councillor Wilson, I'd be quite happy to back up Councillor McGrath if she was busy. It just, for me to take May, June, July, August, it's very hard with my job, but I'm always there for backup. I'm in town the whole time, so I have no problem backing up, but to be actual deputy would be really hard on those months for me.
Well, we can switch. Scott and I's positions can switch, and even if I'm remotely alternate deputy mayor, that might work. I plan on going away for the majority of the summer next year like we did this year, but I think the Zoom technology has proven to us that we can do a lot remotely, and I'm happy to do whatever I can to help.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that. Councillor Butler.
I was just going to point out that I don't suppose there's any particular reason that the alternate position follows the 2 months of deputy. We do that because it seemed to be a convenient way to start things out, but I don't know that it matters.
Like maybe my alternate shift can stay March and April, and then we just change that first column with Scott and I switching. And Councillor Janot is always dependable, so Councillor Wilson likely wouldn't be needed much during July and August.
But I would be in town, so that would be handy as well. Yeah, that would be very helpful for me.
All right. I appreciate the discussion, but I am lost. So let's just go through this. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Butler for November, December, you're fine with that?
Yes,
And Councillor Demota, you can be alternate deputy mayor during that period? Yes. So January, February, what I think I hear is Councillor Wilson instead of Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Councilor McGrath.
And Councillor Butler, you could continue to be alternate deputy mayor as the template shows. March and April, Councillor Kelleher-Empey. Now, Councillor Journeau was the one that started all this, who wanted to switch. Councillor Kelleher-Empey or Councillor McGrath might fit the bill, but I have to go back. And Councillor McGrath, did you say that July, August is not good for you? Sorry, I'm sorry.
With children in school, those would
Yes.
be the least desirable months.
Councillor Journeau.
I had requested a switch, but I see the commitments of others with family and work. So I will continue with the July, August, because it looks like it's not the favorite one of council. And I understand that. But I switched to deputy mayor because I certainly want to be away in September, October, but I was away this year and it doesn't seem to matter. So that's fine as well. But yes, I'll remain July and August because it seems to be the most workable for my colleagues. And thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. So then returning to March, April, Councillor Kelleher-Empey and alternate deputy. I suppose if we followed the pattern, that would be Councillor Wilson, but it could stay there as Councillor McGrath. Is there a preference?
Can we keep it that's my alternate deputy shift, just for ease of my backup plan in the summer?
Yeah, for sure.
I think Helen and I do well supporting each other when we can't make it to things.
All right. Then for May and June, it would be Councillor McGrath as deputy mayor. And Councillor Kelleher-Empey, can you then remain as alternate deputy mayor? July, August, Councillor Journeau, as stated, Councillor Wilson can make that work.
Yep.
And then September, October, Councillor Demota as deputy mayor and Councillor Journeau as alternate.
Just to maybe throw in another curveball here, not intentionally, but because there isn't going to be on this council another November, December, I'm willing to switch this one as alternate deputy with Councillor Journeau in case that he is away more in July and August, and I could back him up. I just don't have that level of commitment to be deputy mayor in those months of his, but if it makes it easier on you and you need to be away sometimes during those times, we could switch this November and December if you want to be Paul's backup, and then I could go and be your backup in the summer months. That just kind of reverses the rule because then I'd be stepping from acting deputy to deputy mayor, but it's up to you. Does that change anything for you, Councillor Journeau? You're muted.
Councillor
Sorry.
Journeau speaking, but we can't hear you. You'll have to unmute.
Unmute, sorry. Whatever, the duties of alternate deputy mayor seldom come into play. So I would prefer not to have September and October, but I'm not going to upset the apple cart.
All right. If I go back to Councillor Butler's motion, I think, who is just returning. can I accept all of those changes as friendly amendments to your motion?
I found that all very friendly, so yes.
Yes, exceptionally friendly. All right. So the motion is to approve, I suppose, the rotation of the deputy and alternate deputy mayor schedule as discussed. I'm not going to try and repeat it all. All in favor? They're not opposed. That is carried.
Should we confirm that somebody actually has that? Or have we been clear?
Well, the question is, had somebody made clarity from our rambling?
It looked like Kayla was trying to
Yes.
confirm.
Oh, apologies. I was double muted. But yes, we have everything written down.
Perfect. Thank you for that. All right, agenda item 6 then, the committee structure 6.1, the list of committees and boards. I am not sure whether I've made the complete comparison. I sent out a document last night. Is there anything added to that that is not on this list?
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry, I'm just looking at too many devices. Councillor Demoted.
Well, I was just wondering if there's a desire for council to have some type, particularly just for the rest of this term, some type of communications committee or something to that effect, dealing with social media and maybe, how we advertise things and stuff. I know we have a new person and, there's a whole department for that. But I'm not sure if there's something that, could be struck for us to help develop policy and work through that with council, or should that be a whole council thing? But I noticed that, particularly, I use particularly a lot, don't I? So throughout this year, some certain things have stood out, and, I have a growing admiration for our staff's efforts. But I was just wondering if there was an interest from council to strike some type of committee around communications. I was wondering how people felt about that.
Councillor McGrath?
Well, I don't want it to seem like I'm not in agreement of communications work, because I certainly want to continue to develop and enhance the municipality's communications. But I'm not positive if, like, how it would work with a staff person being the communications person and direction from council, and or I guess, like everything, the flow of how the committees and boards relate to council and what our intention of each is. And, I think with administration has lots to do with communications, and thankfully we do have a new person for it. I'm kind of feeling like it would be comparable to our environmental committee that has yet to get off the ground because of all of the details that have to be worked out. And I'd like to focus on that. But I, say, for example, in the environmental responsibility, I would expect that there's a piece of this environmental responsibility that flows to communications, and like many other areas of the municipality that have a communications link. So I see it as a very broad thing, and I'm not sure exactly how it fits into the picture, but it's certainly something that we're going to need to do lots on.
And if I may follow up, sir?
You may, I just want to, excuse me, confirm, Councillor Butler, did I see your hand? I had a mental note that,
You did, but I would prefer to wait if
Yeah.
Councillor Demoto wants to follow.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
will allow
briefly-
Councillor to respond and then Councillor Butler.
Sorry. Thank you, Councillor McGrath, and I appreciate that. I'm just throwing it out there because I really don't know what to really expect out of this. I just know that, you know, collectively we had some stuff that we talked about going forward, and just recently taking that public engagement course. I think that, you know, we have a lot of room for improvement, but also within our own policies, you know, to review and clean some things up, and then what we'd like to do in the future as far as going forward with public engagement. Town halls, I think was discussed, and I think when we have a broad scope involving the rest of council, particularly with committee of the wholes and how busy they've been lately, and the things that we need to council. I was just thinking, concentrating that into a few people that could work towards or work with administration into just cleaning things up and coming to more of a round representation and working with all of that, whether it's public engagement, social media, and all that type of stuff. So I don't know what it should be called, or if that could be just handled within the legislative committee. I'm not sure. So I'm just throwing it out there as something to discuss. I'm finished.
Thank you, Councillor Butler.
Thank you. I feel like we may need a communications policy, or we may need to adjust our public engagement policy to fill it out a little more fully in respect of communications, but I would not be in favor of forming a separate committee. I think we're already behind our own schedule in terms of reformulating some of our committees, and I would hate to see us add to that stack of as yet unformed ideas. So I myself don't think we should create another committee. As much as I appreciate the intent of the suggestion, I think we could approach it from a policy point of view rather from a committee point of view.
Thank you, Councillor Demoto.
That's great. I just I'd feel remiss if I didn't address it. One thing that I did want to bring up, and just from the Jasper partnership point of view, and I see the recovery task force on there, and is that just taking place instead of the partnership? And then if that reverts back to, if that committee is no longer needed, would that revert back to me going on as the partnership assignment, and you as the mayor, or just being the alternate? Was that the intention of that?
That was my intent, and although in the document that's appended to the agenda, those two assignments are coupled, my recollection was that
Okay.
There was a different appointment for the Economic Recovery Task Force. Jasper Partnership will, I think, in any event, continue. The Economic Recovery Task Force may not. So I had on the list that I sent around differentiated because the appointments are different, and I think in a technical sense the assignments are different. So my intent was the partnership initiative would remain with a councillor appointed, and when that gets active again, the suggestion that I had was that you stay on that committee.
Okay. So, and I know through some of my requests that I kind of, when I gave you my list, it was just kind of categorized in my order of preference. And although it didn't reach my top 4 or whatever it was, one of them was legislative. And just given the amount of work, I looked at Councillor Wilson's obligations. And sometimes when you have those out of town commitments, that requires more of you. And because of his business and stuff like that, you know, I'm not necessarily willing to swap any of mine, but if it would help unburden Mr. Wilson, I wouldn't mind, or if anybody else wanted to relieve some of their extra duties, I wouldn't mind being part of the legislative one. mainly particular that I want to push forward getting this environmental stewardship, or not stewardship, but responsibility committee going. And I think one of the reasons why it hasn't, it's been held up at that committee, and I'm very committed to getting and moving it forward. So having a, you know, kind of a foot or an iron in both fires there, I might be able to add a little bit more energy into getting something completed so that we can move forward on the other. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying that you know, people have more work there, but I'm offering to have more work in that area if someone's willing to step back.
All right, before we,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, I just wanted to tackle first the structure of committees and boards.
Oh, right. Okay, I
So,
apologize.
but before we get to appointments, I just want to confirm that we know the boards and committees which are going to continue, and then we can deal with the appointment. So with one exception, I am going to propose at least that Jasper Partnership Initiative and Economic Recovery Task Force be seen as two separate appointments, but otherwise the list that is in the agenda, I don't hear any arguments from anybody that any of those boards or committees should be abandoned, but I'm open to any suggestion in that regard. But otherwise, I would entertain a motion that council approve that list of committees and boards for the coming year. Councillor Demota? Sorry, you're making that motion?
Yes, sir. I'm making that motion.
Thank you. Any debate on that? So that is just to approve that structure? All right, if there's no debate, I'll call the question. All in favor? There are none opposed. So that is the list that we are working with. And now, as to appointments, I have proposed a number of appointments. One of the very few prerogatives of the mayor, but not to be exercised without consultation. So I open it to that. And Councillor Demota, I think that you are requesting not to give up any work, but to take on more work.
More, yeah. Well, you know what? I've been quite fortunate throughout this entire term to have a little bit more local representation, but most of the committees that I get assigned to seem to like either become defunct or not meet regularly because of something or other, and I still feel like I can give back a little bit more. I'm not sure what the next year holds for me, but you know, I was willing to help out, and like I said, if it means providing more energy in a certain area to get an outcome in the other, then I'm willing to jump in. So.
All right, thank you for that. As I noted, I did my best to equalize assignments, although I acknowledge that number of assignments is not any proxy for the amount of work that is done. So it's not really necessarily a fair way to do things. And just by the nature of the number of assignments and the number of counselors, most get 4, well, all but one gets 4 and one gets 3. But whatever makes council comfortable is fine by me. Councillor Wilson?
I actually didn't notice on your email last night that I was on legislative, and if it is something that Councillor Demota feels like he would take on, I would gladly give up that to him.
And just for clarification, I don't have it because I got to flip back and forth now. Mayor Ireland, does that leave, is Scott the person with 3, or is that me with 3 originally?
Councillor Journeau. So that would give Councillor Wilson 3 and you 5. Councillor Journeau 3 and everybody else 4.
My 5 is not really a hard 5. It's kind of like 4.2.5, 4.25. But I'm okay with that if Councillor Wilson's okay with that, and if you're okay with that, sir, and everybody else too.
I am open to hearing from anyone. I am fine with what works for council, and recognizing that people have other life commitments, not just council. So if this works for everyone, I'm content with that. Any other, before we move to approval of the appointments, does anybody have any other comments about specific appointments? All right, I'm sorry, Councillor Demoda.
Well, I noticed that you were on the HR committee before, and I had requested to move on to that. So did you step aside to let me have that? And if you were still interested in doing that work, I know that Councillor Journeau, even though he's only got 3, had said that he didn't mind stepping away either if that made room for people that wanted to be there. So not to confuse things further, but if you're okay with that, then that's fine. And I appreciate you giving me that opportunity. So
It seems to be you went 5 deep, so lucky you, because you've got 5 now. So I'm going to invite someone to make a motion to approve the appointments to committee, boards and committees consistent with the document I circulated last night, with the exception that on the legislative committee, Councillor Demoda will replace Councillor Wilson.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Kelleher-Empey. Any debates? I'll call the question. All in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And I think that completes what we need to do today. Out there somewhere, I think, on one of my screens is Mr. Furcho. And Councillor Demoda made some comments this morning, and I join with him, and I'm sure with all of council, in expressing our gratitude for the past 6 years of service to our community, Mr. Furcho, and wishing you all the best in your new assignment in Cranbrook. And I want, before I call for an adjournment, to give you the very last word on what I think is maybe your very last day. So the floor is yours, whether you want it or not.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to council. I'm here in the hotel room because the moving truck is going to be arriving in Cranbrook with all my stuff later today. So I'm really, it really is that time has come, and I'll just say thank you to council for the opportunity and the time I had in Jasper. It's been quite a life experience, and certainly I owe that to the management team for supporting me and all the work that we did, providing the support to council. So thank you. The staff team in Jasper has been wonderful, and I've just really, like I said in my going away note, the dedication and the ability to overcome anything is pretty unique in Jasper with the unionized workforce. The management team has been wonderful, and certainly I've appreciated council's support in providing me the opportunity to be the CAO here. It's been great. So I know you're gonna make the right decision in who you select for your next CAO to lead the team. I have every confidence in the world that that's going to unfold perfectly, and somebody will be a bright shining star here for you. So thank you, and I guess I'll see you all later. So thanks, Richard.
Well, thank you, Mark, and I will extend to you, whether it's within or beyond the rules, the opportunity to make the motion to adjourn.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? That's
All right.
carried. Thank you, Your
We
Worship.
are. Thank you all very much.